and the need for pedagogical skill at a skill building, at a drill instructor level. I think that the way we think about the role of educators is going to need to change just as much as the way we think about the role of students and what their learning paths are. And to me, one of the hugely exciting things about all of this is I think that's going to be possible.
That's good. That's great. But when you say like,
I wish I could wave my magic wand.
Huh?
I said I wish I could wave my magic wand.
I know. Wouldn't that be amazing? So when you say the profile of educators is going to be like individualized, so essentially like this unified system will leverage different profiles of people, or even like they will, the idea of someone having PhD, like doing research in this particular topic and then having to teach this class, like wouldn't actually not exist. So you could like as part of the learning plan, if it makes sense.
Yes.
So the system will bring in like industry experts, or they could bring PhD like professor people. But yeah, go ahead.
I don't think PhDs are going to exist, and I don't think there's going to be a rigid distinction between who's an industry person and who's an educator. One of the things I think is going to happen is that learning is going to be such an integral part of creating economic value that you're not going to see the kind of rigid separation between what's industry and what's academic. I can easily envision a time when somebody whose role has been primarily directing and closer to an executive role, somebody like that may also just seamlessly also be doing research, because when you're directing some enterprise is often when you see new things.
Yeah.
And if you see new things, maybe you wind up teaching them.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying, because earlier during this call, we were discussing how the concept of university will not exist. So in that world, like, if I'm doing research, I could be doing it in think tank, I could be doing it in corporate world, I could be doing it in any other institution that's not currently a university, which basically means that these unified systems will bring in people, and like if they need to teach this idea of design thinking and how to push knowledge forward, like it doesn't have to be a person with a PhD, because frankly they won't exist anymore, and they would pull in people who are doing research in different environments, and then having students like teach that. Having to teach students. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, the only centralized institutional type authority that needs to exist is the one that establishes and validates credentials. And that doesn't have to be a university. For God's sakes, that could be the blockchain, I mean, that could be literally a system where we've figured out how individuals can demonstrate their learning, can demonstrate their expertise, and can be validated to earn a credential. And
that is actually pretty cool. Okay. So it's like right now, I'm a professor, like doing research, and I make some breakthrough thing, and I write a paper and submit it to an academic journal, and then like they approve, like blah blah blah. Versus in this world where like researchers are pretty much scattered in different parts of the industry or institutions, and they will be a centralized function, like you're saying, maybe it's blockchain, but that the centralized system kind of accrediting like the work that I'm doing, so I don't need to go through all these like academic processes and having to have that like Harvard whatever to persuade that the value, basically convince to people that my research has value.
I think there are going to be much easier ways to test research, to test ideas, to test new methodologies, to test new apps, whatever it is. I think there are going to be much easier ways to test that